Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and also welcome to what might possibly be the first episode in a new series on this channel if, of course, you all like it and you want to see more of them. I'm currently toying with the idea of calling this series Masterclass because I want to differentiate it from my tank reviews. Now, you might be asking, why suddenly do you have to do that in 2021? Well, for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the amount of time that as a community contributor I often get with a new tank is so limited, I don't really feel like I've truly mastered the tank when I'm doing a review of the vehicle. I'm giving you my idea of it early so that hopefully you can get up to speed and quite often have to make a decision about whether it's going to be worth a purchase or whether you want to grind up a tank tree. Also, those videos, they contain a lot of information comparing the vehicle to other vehicles inside its class. What I want to do with this series instead is not cater it so much to the new player who knows nothing about the tank, but players out there who may be familiar with the vehicles, or maybe you're just a veteran of World of Tanks and you will know how a vehicle will work even if you've never played it, and suggesting at least a way and a theory that has worked for me on the tank that either you can replicate or use to build upon when you're thinking about how you want to play your vehicles. Alright, so without further ado, let's start with the K-91. The K-91, when I first played this tank, I really didn't quite get to grips with it. I saw that wonderful, magical, impressive damage per minute with a decent accuracy, and I thought, okay, we're going to have to snipe. And while I wasn't wrong, sniping this vehicle is important. It's about using equipment and the field modifications to your advantage to be able to turn sniping into your favor. So before I show you exactly how I do that, let's take a look at the K-91's position, at least on the European server, in the last 30 days using the awesome Tomato GG website. All right, so if we're looking at win ratio, the K-91 is sitting at 47.23%. That is fairly abysmal, with the only vehicle with a worse win ratio, the T-62A. If we take a look at how much this vehicle is also played, apart from the Clan Wars tanks and another collector's vehicle like the AMX-30B, not many people are giving attention to this tank. That's most likely because the K-91 has a real clunky turret mechanic where it can turn pretty much about 110 degrees to the left and to the right, combined with the fact that it only has 9 degrees of gun depression right over the side of the tank, which means that quite often people are overturning to be able to make use of it. The fact that this vehicle doesn't have a fully traversable turret means that lots of players, if you're anything like me, will find it incredibly clunky when you're using the sniper mode and you want to turn the hull, that it also jerks your reticle all over the screen. Several patches ago, Wargaming actually added in a functionality where you can uncheck the automatic hull lock inside the sniper mode. And this will allow you to be able to aim all the way behind your vehicle so that even if you're driving one way, you can look with the sniper view to see what's behind you. This, for me, revolutionized the way that I could be able to play the K-91, as quite often I want the turret to be able to adjust to where I'm aiming immediately after turning the hull. So try it and see, but be warned, this will make quite a lot of tank destroyers feel incredibly clunky, so you might want to turn it on and off for your sessions in the K-91 if you can be bothered. Or after a while, you'll learn to hold down your right mouse button in your tank destroyers to stop them turning when you're looking behind you. So when I sat down with the K-91 recently, I tried to throw away everything that I thought about this vehicle and focus on how I can try and make it work. And that was to boost the camo rating of the tank. When combining concealment on all of your crew members, while also using a low noise exhaust system, even without using a directive, the concealment of the K-91 is able to get up to 40% when you're moving and 49.57% when you're stationary. Now, of course, you could use a premium low noise system, bounty or bond vents, and you could even throw in a directive as well, and you could pump that rating up to maybe the 42 or 43 mark. To be able to achieve this, you've got to make sure that you use anti-reflective headlights coating. I know, that seems weird to limit the reverse speed of the tank, but really by pumping up the camo as much as that, I was able to outspot my opponents, sit out in the open as we're going to be seeing in the gameplay, and it really allows you to become the sniper that the K-91 wants to be. The other field mods that I felt were influential in my K-91 gameplay recently were having the improved sight to improve the accuracy of the vehicle, however also to put in the loading mechanism which will lower my accuracy but improve my rate of fire, making this the highest damage per minute medium tank in the game. Way higher than even the STB-1 is able to achieve with that awesome rate of fire. It should really go without saying that for your 6th field modification slot that you are taking scouting, because that will enable you to not even have to use a bounty low egg noise system, and it will still give you 8% compared to 9% that the bounty would give you. In my 2nd set of equipment, I personally like to use vents in addition to a commander's vision system and a gun rammer. And think about it like this. This is the setup that I will use when there are bushes on the map, whereas alternatively, this is the setup that I will use to be able to outspot my opponents when there are no bushes on the map and I really need to pump up my concealment. Many of you will be alarmed by the fact that I'm not taking vertical stabilizers on this tank, and I really feel that this vehicle is right on the cusp, considering its awesome rate of fire, about whether I would want to take them or not. But I really feel that pumping up the DPM with a gun rammer and vents, and sure, sacrificing my gun handling to be able to gain incredible bush penetration or concealment when I'm moving of above 40%, really helped me with the K-91. Okay, so we've loaded in on Westfield, and you instantly see me switching between the equipment loadouts that I have on the vehicle. Obviously, there are a lot of bushes on this map, and I'm switching thinking like, should I use the exhaust system or should I use the commander's vision system? And I think I'm going to be set on using the commander's vision system. While that means that there's going to be a little bit more of a risk of me getting spotted as I'm trying to push across this southern area, it will hopefully pay off in dividends later on in the battle. Also, you'll see that I have 2 sets of consumables when I'm playing this vehicle. I personally have a large repair kit, small med kit, and a premium consumable on one set, and then I have a large repair kit, large med kit, and premium consumable on my 2nd set. And I use the premium consumable when I'm playing against lots of artillery, because otherwise, you know, those stuns, they're going to be driving me insane, and I think spending the 10,000 credits is probably worth it. Obviously, a lot of you will be saying, 10,000 credits, QuickyBaby, what are you talking about? They cost 20,000. Well, if you're not buying them at half price whenever Wargaming do 50% consumables, start doing it. It'll save you millions of credits between each of the sales. Okay, so immediately we see that the EBR 105 has taken a big old clap. That's most likely from the enemy EBR. Now, I'm making a bit of a risky play here, but considering that the EBR is in the position that they are, as long as I get over towards the right here, remember, I've still got about 31% camo when I'm moving, even though I'm not using my bounty exhaust system. And this commander's vision system is going to allow us to be able to pierce the bushes later on. Okay, so in this situation in the K-91, it's not particularly wonderful. You don't have the armor, and you're against tanks with better alpha damage. What I have to do is try and win a scenario, and this is quite often what I would have to do in the K-91 early on in the battle. It's not a tank that is able to really trade 1-for-1, but it's so important that the K-91 sets up its sniper's nest, and you can't set it up if the enemy are in a position where they're fighting you up close and personal. And so I'm going to use the rate of fire that this tank has. With the field mods that I've talked about, I have a sub 5-second reload with 320 alpha damage. And if the UDES misses me, well, you can see that he is just losing his entire vehicle to my presence right now. If I get a high roll here, I'm going to be able to save myself some hit points. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and I'm going to tank him again. Now, my fuel tanks are damaged, so I really hope that I'm going to use my repair kit in a second. There you go, great. One of the most important things to do on any of your Soviet vehicles is to repair your fuel tanks if they're damaged, if, like me, you are using a premium consumable. Of course, if you're using a large repair kit, you want to wait until you know that you don't have to repair your tracks in that kind of a scenario, or maybe like the artillery is going to be able to hit you. Okay, so far, we've just absolutely ripped that UDES apart. I shot them 6 times. That's enough to be able to deal with any tier 10 medium tank. And this is where this vehicle's camo rating. It's 410 meters base view range. And also the commander's vision system is just going to allow us to make plays and be the predator of a bush, unlike any other vehicles are able to. So we spot that STB-1 for the first time. I fire a shell right at them and I don't actually manage to connect. That one surprised me. But what I'm trying to do is find the tracks. All right, there we go. Tracks off. Is he going to use his repair kit? We're going to find out in a second. As soon as he fires at us, he's no longer able to stay hidden because of our commander's vision system. And clearly we hit his tracks for the second time. And this player is going to find out what happens when the K-91 has like a 4.8 second reload. And even though the STB-1 blind fires me in that scenario, a really nice blind fire for the STB-1, I'm going to move slightly to be able to avoid his additional shot. And just like that, we literally chewed up the second entirety of a medium tank. And it's all because of the flexibility of having the commander's vision system. And one of the lovely things about this tank is the fact that you can easily take the commander's vision system and get away with it. You don't really have to use the vertical stabilizers because of the great aim time of the tank. And by pumping up that opportunity to be able to spot in those scenarios, you really do give yourself the ultimate opportunity to be the sniper of destiny. So you'll see that I actually asked the STB-1 to fall back there because he was kind of behind me, firing, and I was really worried that I was going to end up getting caught out. But you know what? That's life. So the K-91 in this scenario, that is the tank who managed to see me. It was the Stridsvagn 103B. Luckily, again, the bush setup that we have for this vehicle, or should I say the counter bush setup that we have on this vehicle, is going to allow us to spot the sneaky Swede, put a couple of rounds in, and this is where just having one of the most accurate medium tanks in the game, even with the way that I've nerfed the accuracy a little bit to be able to pump up the tank's DPM, it's outrageous. The fact that we just did 1,200 damage to the Stridsvagn 103B there just shows how voracious this vehicle is. And that is pretty much the battle won. We've allowed our team to be able to push over. We've got some damage in. We only just get spotted by the 268 there. And as long as the artillery doesn't hit me, 5,800 damage, but I'll take that. That's the equivalent of 3 tier 10 tanks taken out. And it was more about using the vehicle's hit points early on to be able to gain an advantage to try and secure a sniper snot even. So that's a different kind of thing that a sniper would have, to then be able to use it to really go to towns on our opponents. One thing, obviously, you've hopefully watched my tank preview or my tank review before. You'll love about this vehicle if you're looking at it for the first time, or if you just didn't notice it, is 1,700 meters a second shell velocity. This has the best shell velocity, I believe, in the game. Fortunately, we're not going to get anything more out of this round. The 261's going to be in the dip, and I believe they're going to get finished off before we get there. 6,000 damage in 5 minutes, but more importantly, being able to cut our way through that flank is what the K-91 is all about. Alright, so this time we're loading into the battle and we're playing on Sand River. Not too many bushes here, so I wonder if I'm going to stay with the commander's vision system, or there we go, we're going to change to the bounty exhaust system. This now means that with the bounty setup that I have on this tank, that we're achieving probably about 41 or maybe even 42% camo. However, as I showed in the garage, I'm now using regular equipment on this vehicle, and you can easily be able to achieve over 40% concealment when moving without having to use bounty equipment. This vehicle is one of the tanks that I really would think about investing a premium crew in. It's a tank that really does need concealment. The commander is in a huge high-pressure situation with this vehicle. You need to have situational awareness and recon to allow you to forego the coated optics. Even if you don't have a premium consumable, that will allow you to be able to focus on other modules instead, maximizing the DPM and, in this case, the concealment of the tank. And that allows you to just sneak into positions, still be able to fire while remaining at least a little bit unspotted. Or maybe we're going to get lit up in a second here. And that is where this tank is just beautiful. In these kind of snipey situations, I think it's got to be the best tank in the game for these kind of positions. Maybe you'd want to be in a Stridsvagn 103B, right? That really is a sniping awesome tank destroyer to have. However, one thing that the Stridsvagn 103B doesn't have is the turret. And also, the Stridsvagn 103B's view range is so poor that you kind of can't use both a gun rammer and vents, because you want to have a turbo on that tank, and you're probably going to be wanting to take coated optics, and also being able to take maybe binoculars if you're not taking coated optics on the vehicle. And the issue with that is that then the K-91 actually kind of leapfrogs the Stridsvagn 103B to being the best sniper. Even better than the Leopard, in my opinion, from my gameplay in the vehicle, at least recently. Okay, and so this kind of a scenario, it's just about kind of hanging tough, trying to fight at the fringes. Unfortunately for us, we're trying to fight against an M60, whether that's somebody who's purchased it for bonds or somebody who's got it as a Clan Wars reward back in the day. We can only guess. The M60, however, we do know has 420 meters view range, and that's going to be fairly awkward for us. And despite my best efforts to be able to get these shots in against the weak point of the M60, it doesn't seem to be working out for us. One of the good things about the K-91 in this situation is its low profile does still make it quite a tricky tank to be able to hit, especially along a ridge line like here. You can really hide most of your vehicle, and that is your best hope for being able to avoid the damage, because its armor really isn't anything to write home about. While you should still try and use your armor, as you can see earlier on in the battle we bounced around from the 60 TP, don't ever try and get yourself into a situation in the K-91 where you're depending on the armor. Don't be afraid to sit there with your turret exposed, especially to vehicles with poor amounts of penetration, but make sure that you're at least penetrating the enemy multiple times for every time they are hitting you, otherwise you're not really playing the tank as it's intended to be. Man, every time I just watch this vehicle back and I see that incredible shell velocity, kind of makes me fall in love with a tank that I truly really hated earlier on. But I'm actually achieving some of my best results in this tank. Not just this tank, but just overall on my account for any of my mediums by playing it in this sneaky sniper way. Alright, so what you're going to see here is a situation where I misjudge the scenario. I'm going to go and I'm going to try and get my damage into the Progetto 65 here, but I'm also worried about the T-57 Heavy. Unfortunately for me, the 277 manages to clunk around into the top of my turret, and oh god, there's a T-57 Heavy. This is where it does suck that I've taken the concealment on the tank, but you'll see that my reverse speed is awful. And I'm quite lucky to still be alive. The T-57 Heavy missed a shot, and the 277 bounced a heat round off me by the looks of it. Obviously, not exactly the best kind of result for us there, but somebody has to be the fall guy, at least with regards to hit points, and considering the T-57 Heavy is now dry, that's allowing the Bat Chat to go in and just be an absolute boss. Spot out for the artillery, and we've kind of defended that flank. You can't be afraid of getting stuck in the K-91 just because it's a sniper. It is a Soviet medium tank after all, and if you don't try to jump in on those opportunities, quite often you're going to let the game slip you by. And hopefully for most of the people watching this video, you're going to be trying to get as much damage, as much spotting, as much tracking, as much experience from your wins as you possibly can, if that's one of your goals for this vehicle. Just hanging back isn't really going to work out for you. Okay, so this is where this camo build on the K-91 is just absolutely ridiculous. I have more than enough view range to be able to spot moving vehicles right up until the 445 meters spotting distance, unless of course they're a light tank or they're a very well concealed tank destroyer like the Stridsvagn 103B. But what you're going to see me do is just realize, okay, if I've got 40% concealment when I'm moving, or maybe even 42 at this point, and I've got literally 50% concealment when I'm sitting still without a camo net, how are they ever possibly going to be able to see me before I see them? In this kind of a scenario, I literally have better camo rating than an EBR 105, and of course, I have way better view range than an EBR 105 will be able to achieve. The only thing that could possibly be able to outspot me on the enemy team when I'm sitting still here would have been if the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen or the T100 LT are alive, and they're just simply not. And this is how I have been able to dominate in my K-91 recently. What, sitting up on top of a mound and just sitting out in the open? Yes, but it's more about the idea or the principle of it. And that is that you should try and spend your hit points early, or try and survive till the middle of the game. But let me clarify that sometimes you have to spend your hit points to be able to help your team to be able to get towards the middle of the game. And then after you've managed to get there, quite often you find yourself in scenarios where you just have so much space to be able to work with. You have so much camo rating, so much DPM, so much mobility, and even the view range to be able to outspot your opponents that you will just absolutely profit. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go from what was looking like it could have been a pretty horrible game earlier on against the T-57 Heavy, where we ended with maybe about 300 spotting and possibly like 1,000 or a couple of thousand damage, to just absolutely reaping what we sowed earlier on in the battle. The seeds of us shedding those hit points to go and get stuck in to make sure our team didn't lose one of the flanks now is going to pay off. We're going to be harvesting all of that lovely damage and all of that lovely spotting later on in the battle. It seems a bit stupid to me, Equipment 2.0, when I see situations like this, when I'm playing a tier 10 medium tank and I'm just realizing I've got better camo rating than most of the tank destroyers do, even if they're sitting in a bush or if they're sitting with a camo net activated. And because of the fact that medium tanks can use a commander's vision system to be able to obliterate bushes on bush-dominated maps and have the flexibility to then not use that kind of a setup on other maps, I really feel like this was the sweet spot for me with my K-91. Now, I'd like to clarify that this kind of a setup, you're going to have a little bit more of a hard time on a map like Ensk, or maybe even a hard time on a map like Rumberg or Himmelsdorf. On those kind of a maps, obviously you want to use the bounty exhaust system or the regular exhaust system, which will be doing 8% on your vehicle. You're still going to have that 40% concealment when you're moving, which will allow you to work on the fringes. When you're playing on something like a Himmelsdorf, maybe set up a bit of a snipe against tanks that are up on the hill, or alternatively, try and win the train tracks. So we're going to reload a high explosive anti-tank round, and I'm a little bit sad that I don't have intuition. It's got to be one of my favorite skills in World of Tanks. Absolutely love intuition. Being able to switch shells quickly means that you don't have to faff around like I was there and wait those 5 seconds. Oh, who's got 5 seconds to wait to be able to shoot a Jagdpanzer 100, right? Okay, so now this is where just love to be. That M60 nearly got us earlier on in the game, or at least annoyed me greatly earlier on in the game. Looks like I had the last laugh though, unfortunately for you, Mr. M60, as we put a round into the back of the tank. And the K-91 in this kind of a scenario just has the flexibility and the DPM to work these ridges and be able to pick apart its opponents before it gives them a chance to be able to react, combined with decent aim time. Not the best gun handling, but definitely not the worst gun handling. If you combine it with some decent crew skills, then I don't think you should ever use vertical stabilizers on this tank. And that is what's so beautiful. It gives you so many equipment slots to work to be able to turn this thing into the sniping monster. Okay, so in this scenario, I'm just wondering where the artillery is, and I thought that the artillery must be in the dip right. What? Can you honestly believe that, ladies and gents, boys and girls? That the T-92 was hidden in this little crater, this little artillery alcove, and he manages to shut down the VZ-55, which gives me a little bit of a cheeky opportunity to be able to put one round into him. My team is going to finish them off, and there we have it. And spoilers for the post-game. Yeah, this'll be the last time that we ever have 2 stars on the barrel of our K-91, as this was our 3rd mark of excellence. So to conclude, the K-91's extreme rate of fire and damage per minute allowed us to shoot off the entirety of tier 10 medium tanks without taking too much damage in return. Then, creating this space on the battlefield, we use our superior camo rating and view range to be able to just outspot every single tank there could be at high tier inside the game. Meaning that even in situations where your team don't even really help you with your assistance, you can still do 6,500 damage in 6 minutes, or alternatively on Sand River, you can supplement your 5,400 damage with 2,200 spotting, which was enough on Sand River to be able to give us our 3rd mark of excellence. And if we take a look at the session that I had in the K-91 to be able to achieve this, you can see just how consistently you were able to get the K-91 with practice into that dominant sniping position. So all in all, does the K-91 deserve to have the 2nd worst win ratio of any tier 10 medium in the game? Possibly. It's not the easiest of tanks to play. But I would argue it's also one of the vehicles that has benefited the most from Equipment 2.0 and field modifications, as it is the 5th best medium tank in the game with regards to concealment when it's moving. This allows the tank to be able to have outrageous scaling. Go and exploit it, and you will do wonders in this tank. especially compared to the average player. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this going into the nitty-gritty details and to give the idea of a masterclass on this tank. If you did and you want to see more videos like this, then make sure you let me know in the comments and give this video a thumbs up as well. And do let me know in the comments if you've got any feedback about things that maybe I've missed out. Not specifically on this tank, so to say, although I'd still love to hear that anyway, but from the idea of doing this for more vehicles down the line. What things do you really wish that you knew or that I highlighted in a video such as this, a masterclass of a specific tank? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.